Well, we've had 4 filled right now. There's a couple more out there that are going to fill pretty quickly going into the NBA draft in the middle of this month. Philadelphia, really good hire. Nick Nurse did a good job in Toronto, and then finally they felt they'd gone as far as they could with him. Nurse gets hired this week in Philadelphia. Now, I'm not sure what he's inheriting because he's got Joel Embiid. He's got Tobias Harris. He's got some Tyrese Maxey. He's got some really good players. But James Harden is opting out of his contract and is going on the street corner as an unrestricted free agent. So it won't be quite the same team if Harden doesn't re-sign in Philadelphia. But the one thing we know about Nick Nurse, you will play defense, damn it. So that bears watching. Okay. But he walks into a really good situation. Houston is a mess. They've been down for an extended period. They didn't win the lottery. They do have some decent young players, but they get Udoka, who came from the Boston Celtics. Udoka did a tremendous job in a short period of time, and then he got removed. He got removed because of a sexual harassment, sexual relationship case with somebody in the front office, and he's refused to address it. But he got bounced out of there pretty quick, and he had a good team that really liked him and responded to him. At the end of the day, Udoka walks into Houston, and they will play suffocating defense. He will teach them to play that way because that's what made Boston pretty good with Tatum and Brown and the Smart and Al Horford and all those guys. So he winds up with a Houston job, although I don't think he's got enough players yet. The surprise hire was in Milwaukee. First of all, that they fired Mike Budenholzer, who had done a really good job. He got bounced right after they got knocked out of the playoffs. They do have Giannis. They do have Chris Middleton. They've got some pretty good players in Milwaukee. This is a bit of a surprise hire. They hired Adrian Griffin. He was the right-hand man to Nick Nurse in Toronto. He must really impress them because he interviewed, I think, for 3 jobs in 1 week, and all of a sudden Milwaukee grabbed him. They just hired him. So it'll be interesting to see what this first-year head coach is like. And then overnight, Thursday morning, he got hired, Monty Williams. Most people of opinion, Monty Williams got screwed in Phoenix. This guy had been in New Orleans. He'd done a really good job building the Phoenix Suns. New owner came in, hit the eject button. After Phoenix got taken out of the playoffs, injuries had something to do with that. Monty Williams goes to Detroit, and they've really been miserable. They've been down for a long time, but they've had high number 1 picks. They traded for a former Golden State number 1 pick, James Wiseman.
Oh, yeah.
They got to teach him to play defense. They got to continue to build his body, but it's 7 foot with offensive skill. They had Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick a year ago, who sat out this past season with a major injury. They've got a lot of young pieces, and they're going to have the 5th pick in the draft, so they're probably going to get a really good player. And Monty Williams comes with a really good reputation. Now, the other 2 jobs that are still open as of this hour, Phoenix Suns. I'm not quite sure I understand this, but this new owner, Matabisha, he wants to do what he wants to do, and it's his money. They're making a push to hire Doc Rivers. And Doc had just gotten jettisoned in Philadelphia. Prior to that, he'd been with the Clippers. He's had success lots of places during the regular season. His postseason playoff record is really poor. So I guess the question you have, because obviously Phoenix has got a lot of firepower and a lot of players, what makes you think Doc will be any better in postseason playoff basketball in Phoenix than he was any of the other 3 or 4 places he's been in the NBA? So that bears watching. And then the last one is Toronto, which got rid of Nick Nurse very early. And I'm surprised it's kind of behind the curve in terms of who they should hire. It's interesting. They're talking to coaches internationally from Europe rather than interviewing a truckload of guys for the Raptors job. And they got some free agent contracts that they're going to have to solve because otherwise they're going to lose some guys. They've got some unhappy veterans that might want to be traded. So I don't know how good the Toronto job is right now. So I've given you a ton of topics here, but go ahead and respond to what.
Well, that's interesting with Toronto. I mean, we've had so many great European players. Why not a European coach come into the NBA? I like that thinking. But I just go back to the Bucks. It's like, how in the heck do you blow out your coach after being a number 1 seed? And sure, they choked in the playoffs. But it's almost like when the Chargers fired Marty Schottenheimer after he went 14-2.
How can you do that?
I mean, what are you doing? So you figure you build on these coaches. I think with coaches, sometimes, people are always seeking someone that has this magic elixir that's going to turn a team into a winner. But if you've got a solid coach that maybe is not great, but still pretty good, you were going to do yourself a disservice by getting rid of them, because there's so many bad coaches out there that'll just tear you down.
Milwaukee won the crown a couple years ago, and you're firing Mike Budenholzer?
That doesn't make any sense.
And Giannis was hurt multiple times this year and was hurt going into the playoffs. So I could understand them suddenly being in trouble if he's nowhere near 100% and, trying to play through a back injury that he had right at the start. I thought it was weird. It is interesting. Budenholzer's not been hired yet, which kind of surprised me. I thought somebody'd jump on that name pretty quickly. So fascinating to see where we're going. And by the way, just around the corner, we got NBA free agency. You think we'll be talking about that? Damn right we will.